That should do it. There we go. Welcome, everybody, to yet another world building workshop. Today, specifically, we're going to be getting back to the basics. Over the last few weeks, we've been discussing the Great Green Sea and building it and fleshing it and all the world building that goes into that. But today, specifically, I'm going to be starting a new series, kind of a back to basics series, where we're going to talk about these 5 steps, and we'll break them down further in future episodes. But I'm hoping that this series is going to be a little bit shorter duration for the sake of all of us who don't want to watch a 45 to 60 minute video. So if you'll give it just a moment as I pull in Instagram, and then we'll get started. My hope and intent over the next few weeks as we go over the 5 steps here that I've this beautiful acronym that I've put together that really actually makes things quite simple, breaks it down nicely, and if you do these 5 things, you're probably going to have a successful functioning campaign. So let's go ahead and give it just a moment. We'll make sure that we're functioning and firing on all of the cylinders. For everyone that's coming on to Instagram, if you want to see the notes or partake of the larger chat, there's already a lot going on YouTube, but we'll go ahead and get started. So when we're talking about, let me preface this. This last week, I had a follower on Instagram come to me and they said, "Hey, Allfather Games, I came up with an idea for a campaign. I wrote out my campaign. It was ready to go. I was ready to rock, and my computer ate it. Essentially, my computer died, my laptop died, and now I'm SOL on this campaign. All of my notes, my motivation's gone. I didn't even get to the table, get to session 0 with my players, and I had all this stuff planned out. And I think they were just feeling down. Just feeling worn down by that. And I know anyone who's ever worked on a project of any size or duration, you've probably felt the pain of, hitting a Windows update and your document not being saved or something like that. And it really got me thinking, okay, well, how can we jumpstart this player? What can we do or use or have available to us? What tools can we have to jumpstart our player, or our DM that is, back into the campaign? What do you really need? What's the basic, rudimentary, fundamental framework that you need to actually run a campaign? And I'm not talking like a single one-shot. I'm sure most anybody can just whip a one-shot out of their old notes, and it'll be fine. You'll get it done. I'm talking about the structure of a campaign, so that you, as a dungeon master, can maybe drop a little lore, do a preliminary 3-shot, and really pull your players in because you've got something made, you've got something invested, and you're ready to go. And that is where we get into the basics. And it is a lovely little acronym that I came up with that covers all of the bases that we need to have covered when we're starting a campaign. If you have these things, you're pretty much ready. You'll be okay. You'll get there. It'll be okay. So, yeah, that's adequate. All right. And today I'm just going to be giving a brief overview. This is episode 1. I'm going to try to keep our episodes shorter over the next few weeks. That way people will actually feel inclined to watch them. They get a little bit of the bottom line up front rather than having to sift through an hour of a stream in order to get the content. But the basics, what are they? It breaks down to this. You need a baddie. And that doesn't even have to be a big, bad, evil guy, the penultimate, archeon of evil. And no, this could just be gang leader, thug number 3. You need somebody. because a lot of what we do is based around our antagonist. We need an antagonist. That's what our baddie is here. Someone to poke the bear that is our protagonists, our players. And this is what creates adventure. Dum, ba-da-dum. This is what gives our players something to do. Our baddie creates adventure. And in that adventure, we've got a few things that we can do. There's a number. Hey, Neverwake, good to have you, man. In this adventure, we can use the 3-2-1 method that I've talked about before, or the 5-step encounter that I've talked about extensively. And we'll definitely be going back into depth with those and probably build one in, that would be episode 3, so in a couple weeks here. But that adventure will inevitably reveal setbacks. And those setbacks, that's where plot comes in. That is where your story... Yeah, Dungeon Soap's got it. It's always fun to poke the players. But the setback is really where the story starts to feel masterful. You're no longer just like encountering things, right? It's when you encounter problems, and that is really those twists and the secrets that surround them, and then the unique solutions that our players come up with. That is where your 1-shot or your 3-shot no longer feel like a 1-shot or a 3-shot. It feels like your players are mucking around in a legitimate plot, in a legitimate world, because you've given them the sensation of, oh, hey, like, not everything just swings our way. Like, things don't just happen nicely for us. Sadie, good to have you. I'm always glad to see you here. But yeah, that setback is what makes things feel real and important to our players. And inevitably, man, I'm using that word a lot. That sensation, that feeling, that is what really impresses upon your players impact. That is what helps them feel like, oh, my decision matters. I was presented with a curious, a secret, a twist, a problem. Okay, I'll write those down here. Instagram, if you want to see my notes, come over to YouTube. A secret, a twist, a problem. Okay? And their response to that, the player's response to that, is what provides a powerful impact, because our players suddenly realize this would not and could not have happened unless I made it happen. That is really cool. That's a really cool thing for our players to feel. It's a really cool opportunity, because there's two things that impact the world, and that's it. The world that we make with our baddie, our adventures, our setbacks, can only be affected by 2 things. Number 1, the baddie. And who's that? That's you. That's the Dungeon Master. The Dungeon Master is the one who controls the antagonist. Though I have seen some really fun opportunities to involve previous players or other people in pulling them into your campaign. And, hey, what would your big bad evil guy do? What are you doing? What have you decided to do? And see what they do with that. And then you just kind of advocate that. And then, of course, the only other thing are the specific adventurers. On their adventure, they impact the world. And those 2 things, the DM and the player, they come together through that impact, and they affect the world. That is what creates the world. You are the DM, you are the antagonist, you're the NPCs, you're the everything that isn't the players. That is you. And between the DM interaction and the player interaction, you come together to create the world. And that is where impact needs to be felt. If you're not finding ways to help your players feel that impact, then you might be a symptom that you might see of that is low player investment. You might have players that just kind of dink around on their phones. You might have players that are doing who knows what in the other room rather than focusing on the right here, right now. It's because they don't feel like they are generating any impact on the world. They are no longer invested. So why should I be here, right? If I'm not here, the game would go on without me. But you need to pull that in, say, no, your decision matters, and it directly affects the world. Manga Artist says, our GM setbacks are made 10 times more complicated by the characters. Of course, yeah. And a thing for us, for the DM to consider, is to help the DM create impact, is the baddie, the villain, the antagonist, whomever that is, or whatever they're doing, they need to be doing it regardless of what the players are doing. The antagonist is going to keep on antagonizing regardless of what side quest the players go on. And that is a truly powerful way to help players see that impact, see how much that's affected. Neverwake says, the bad guy, the false mentor, an old wizard who buffs a noble kid and tells them that they are the chosen. Bluffs the noble kid and tells them they're the chosen one by robbing them blind and dropping them on their head in accursed woods. You know what? That would be fun, and that would actually be a fun side quest to encounter. I like that. But then, of course, we get into this last one, and that is character, and I'm just going to write dev, character development. And this is 100% for the players, okay? And I think it's important for you as a game master to understand who your players are and what they're looking for and what they want to become in this world that you've created. Because as soon as you understand that, you can cater to their needs. Because remember, this isn't just you at the table whipping out a story. All of this is we being woven together to create more. And as you create more through that character development, we need to, I'll talk a lot more about this in the specific episode, but that character development is, let's think about like Dan Harmon's plot circle. Okay, if you don't know who Dan Harmon is, Dan Harmon, you can look that up. Dan Harmon's plot circle, and I like his. There's all sorts of, the hero's journey is another example. There's like a 15 or a 21 step one that I've seen before. I can't remember the guy exactly, but I like Dan Harmon's because it's like 8 things and it's easy to remember and it's super straightforward. But Dan Harmon's plot circle essentially breaks down the hero's journey to its 8 primary pieces. And it equates to, hey, I'm normal. Hey, I've found a problem. Hey, I need to solve the problem. Hey, I go and solve the problem. Hey, that cost too much to solve. Now I return and I'm a different person. That's the generic 10-second breakdown of Dan Harmon's plot circle and the hero's journey in general. And that circle should be felt by our players, but the way that it's felt is through change, through character development. And I'm not just saying like levels. I'm talking like I started off being the edgelord that steals 200 gold from you in the night, and we roll stealth and perception and okay, whatever, sure, but dude, roll it. And then later on, realizing like, hey, these characters matter to my character, and my normally selfish individual is going to make decisions based upon the needs of the group rather than the needs of the one. And that comes from experience. That comes from your players playing together and forming bonds and attachments and living their ideals. Yeah, all friendship. Sadie's got it. All friendship. That is just one of many examples of genuine character development. And we can provide this this vision or this realization that, oh, my character has changed, has become more or less, who knows what kind of campaign you're running, by running back through A, S, and I here, the adventures, the setbacks, and the impacts. You can do that as many times as you need to get to this character development. And that character development is what creates our story. The story is never about the villain. The story is not, okay, please generalize with me for a moment. The story isn't about the villain. It's really not about the adventurer. It's about the people on the adventure, right? As fun as it is to talk about the absolute train wreck of an adventure that people go on, the story always comes back to, who have I become at the end of the adventure? How has Bilbo become more? How has Frodo and Sam become more because of their experiences on the adventure, right? Luke Skywalker, following his path, his hero's journey through a single episode or through 3 episodes, watching him become more and change and develop because of the experiences felt along the way. There's a couple things in the chat here. Manga says, my characters generally just realize that they're the only ones with common sense. You know what? And that's actually, there's nothing wrong with that, actually. Because sometimes we have people at the table who are playing their characters who might not have common sense. And as much as we might look at them and be like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, really? You do that? Like, well, no, they don't do that. Their character does that. And that's an important differentiation. Now, that's not an excuse to go be a Wangrod, if we want to take a word from Matt Colville. That's not an excuse to just go around and be a dick to everybody, because that's what my character would do. Thanks, man. There's 5 other people at this table, and you acting like that is not fun for anybody. Like, it's fun for you, but you are literally 20% of the people at this table. That's insufficient. That's an insufficient excuse for you to be like that. Yeah. So Neverwake, the story is whatever memories remain of the broken survivors, and isn't that so true? Think about some of your most memorable games, some of the most memorable games that you've played, and what was so memorable about it, right? Think about the best nat 20 ever rolled. Was it because a nat 20 was rolled, or was it because of how the character acted when the nat 20 was rolled, right? When the opportunity came to be heroic, how did they do that, right? That is the beautiful moment. That is the moment where characters, remember, this is a role-playing game, characters come out to shine. Anyways, that is the basics. Your baddie, your adventure, your setbacks, your impact, your character development all come together. The basic all comes together to create that story. And that story is so essential. That's the whole reason we play. Like, some of us may enjoy rolling the dice more than talking. Totally acceptable. Because at the end of the day, it's still about the story. Did you have an epic moment in the battle? I crushed his skull and I took his spine as a trophy. Okay, cool, Garl Strongjaw. That's awesome, dude. Love that for you. Sadie. Love that for you. Or was it about having a really cool diplomatic moment with the local merchant, and you were able to wheel and deal, and you were able to pull out a little bit of a secret in regards to your quest, and you found more information, and you dug up some lore at the local university. Awesome. I love that for you, because all of that has come together to create the story that you want, that you are here for. And as dungeon masters, it's up to us to help that happen. It's up to us to create that for them. And that's what it boils down to. And so, for everybody here, I know that this was super short episode, but I'm going to try to keep it shorter for the sake of mental health. Okay, for the sake of people actually trying to watch this later. But that also means that these next 5 episodes, because I'm going to do a separate episode on each of our letters here. Next week is going to be about the baddie and everything that goes into that. But I'm hoping that you were able to get something out of this because all of this, all of the information that you've been hearing, all of these world building workshops have actually been sourced from my book, The Talentless DM. And it's actually not released yet. I'm finishing up the editing of it right now, and so it'll be out in the next couple months here. But I just wanted to give you a hint into the future that you can have all of this, all of the knowledge that I've acquired and created and cobbled together. I hope that it will help you in some way. So please come back, enjoy more in the future. And as always, take care of your players. YouTube, I'm so glad that you were here. I enjoy having you with me. I specifically cut off Instagram to help keep that short because apparently the algorithm prefers the shorter videos. But if anyone wants to hang around for a minute, I'm more than willing to chat. I know that some of us are just barely getting into the room here. Always good to have you, man. Thanks for talking. Look forward to the rest of the episodes as a new DM. Hey, Brent, please come back. If you have the time, I would encourage you to actually go check out my other my Principles of World Building videos. There's a number of ways that they could potentially help you. So, CS80, have a good night. For everyone who's here, thanks again. And I will go ahead and give you my official sign off because we always need to remember to have fun. And as always, take care of your players.